Think medieval battles were just about screaming warriors clashing swords in mud-soaked chaos? You're not alone. That's what movies and games have taught us. A storm of noise and rage, where whoever swings the hardest survives. But the truth is much more calculated. Behind every chaotic clash was a structure. Behind every roar of battle, a plan. What really happened on medieval battlefields was a brutal mix of discipline, communication, psychological manipulation, and moment-to-moment decisions that could decide the fate of an entire kingdom. Today we pull back the curtain on the true art of medieval warfare, beyond the myths, beyond the armor, beyond the blood. Let's begin with the foundation of it all. Order. The first rule of a medieval battle was this: chaos kills. Armies didn't walk blindly into fights. They were trained, drilled, and divided into units. Vanguards, flanks, reserves, archers, cavalry, pikemen, infantry. The organization wasn't just for show, it was survival. Before a single sword was drawn, commanders laid out their formations like chess pieces. The famous shield wall, for example, wasn't just a row of men. It was a fortress of flesh and iron. Shoulder to shoulder, shields interlocked, spears angled forward. It was made to absorb the first charge and resist collapse. And if one man fell, the wall trembled. Sometimes it fell apart entirely. That's how precise this had to be. Then there was cavalry, the medieval version of shock and awe. Knights weren't lone wolves charging into glory. They moved in formations, often in a wedge, designed to split enemy lines, create panic, and let the infantry follow through the opening. A cavalry charge wasn't just loud and fast, it was terrifying. But if the enemy had long spears or a formation like a pike square, that fear could turn against them. A failed charge didn't just waste effort, it often ended in death. That's why formations mattered and why battles were often won before the swords even clashed. Now imagine the battlefield. It wasn't flat. It wasn't fair. Terrain was a silent weapon. A hill could turn the tide. Mud could drag down armor. A narrow pass could make a large army useless. Commanders chose battlefields with care, or were forced into them. Those who adapted fastest lived longest. Some battles were won not by strength, but by trickery. Feigned retreats, surprise ambushes, night raids. The Mongols perfected this, but so did many European lords. A retreat wasn't always a defeat. Sometimes it was bait. And when the enemy broke formation to chase them, boom, the real attack came from the sides or rear. That leads us to real-time communication. In modern warfare, radios do the job. But in medieval times, you had runners, horn blasts, signal flags, and sometimes nothing but instinct. Picture a general at the rear of an army, trying to adjust tactics while dust clouds block his vision. Screams echo around him, and the formation on the left flank begins to crumble. That general had to make a choice, often without perfect information. Reinforce the left, or gamble that the right could break through and wrap around. These decisions were life or death, not just for one man, but for thousands. And they had to be made in seconds. And what about the soldiers? These weren't just nameless bodies. They had roles, fears, families. Some were professionals. Others were farmers with spears. Not all armies were equal. The English longbowmen, for example, were trained from childhood. Their arrows could pierce armor and turn cavalry into a pile of iron and bones. But even the best soldiers needed morale. If a line broke psychologically, even if they had more men, they lost. Fear spread faster than fire. That's why commanders walked among their troops before battle, giving speeches, making promises, even offering silver coins or reminding them of home. A motivated soldier fought harder. A terrified one ran. Let's talk espionage. Yes, even in medieval times, battles began long before the clash. Spies were sent to scout enemy positions, sabotage supplies, spread misinformation. Burning a food caravan, stealing weapons, bribing a disgruntled captain. These things changed battles. Some commanders sent fake messengers to confuse the enemy. Others disguised soldiers as locals to slip inside and open gates from within. Warfare wasn't just a matter of who had the biggest army. It was about who knew more, who deceived better, and who struck first. Now don't forget the noise, the real chaos. Imagine this: trumpets blasting, hooves pounding, metal clanging, men screaming orders, and others screaming in pain. The smell of sweat, blood, smoke, and fear. Arrows whistle. Horses panic. Swords crash. You're not in a story. You're in survival mode. That's what made battlefield cohesion so difficult. Maintaining formation in that madness? Only the most disciplined troops could do it. That's why drills and chain of command mattered. A peasant army thrown into this storm without training? Likely to panic, scatter, and be slaughtered. Which is exactly why nobles invested so much in experienced commanders and professional soldiers. And when it was over? Victory wasn't the end. Wounded men screamed for help. Looters swarmed the dead. Some soldiers didn't even know who won. Others were executed where they stood. The battlefield became a graveyard, and silence finally fell, interrupted only by the groans of the dying and the crows that followed war like vultures. The clean glory of battle? It existed only in poems. The truth was blood, bone, breath, and strategy. So now you know. What looked like madness was, in truth, a deadly dance. A dance choreographed by generals trained by years of repetition, disrupted by terrain, corrected by messengers, and decided in moments of brutal clarity. The next time you see a knight galloping into battle on screen, remember, behind that charge were plans, signals, fear, pressure, and centuries of evolving military strategy. If this changed how you see medieval warfare, let me know in the comments. Which tactic surprised you the most? Would you have survived one of these battles? And if you're hungry for more untold truths from history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video, where we explore the gruesome, ingenious world of medieval battlefield medicine. Spoiler: it involved honey, moss, and a whole lot of screaming.